Resident Evil might just be my all-time favorite franchise. There's few other candidates for sure, but Resident Evil has them beat in sheer quality, quantity and consistency. It is one of my absolute all-time favorite games, the best modern remake overall, and some of the most entertaining games I ever played in general. It's full of heart and soul and charm. It manages to pull off both the over-the-top, goofy action and intense horror, sometimes within a single game. It has some of the strongest segments in any game I ever played, a long history of excellent post-game content and several of gaming's most popular and beloved characters. I love this series, I really do, and that's just a brief Reader's Digest of the reasons why. But you wouldn't really notice how I feel just by looking at my channel. In my long and illustrious career, I only covered the okay, the pretty good, and the worst, or at least the second worst of the series. I haven't really gotten to the really good ones yet, mostly because they all have been talked about to death and I wasn't really confident I would be able to add anything new to that, to portray how much I care about them and how much they mean to me, to turn my feelings into letters, spoken word and footage that I would be personally satisfied with. But I also feel like it's finally time to get over that fear and at least give it a shot. There's nothing to be gained from worrying, and right now, I have the perfect opportunity to finally fix this.
I don't want any more regrets. Whatever it takes, count me in.
Resident Evil Requiem has a difficult task for a simple reason. Capcom is on a generational streak for the last decade or so. Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Shut Up I Liked It, Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 4 Remake. All of those revived the series from the messy, unfocused state it has been in prior to them, capturing a new generation of passionate fans while also attracting the ones it lost before. And while I think the exclamation point of that messy era is actually massively overhated and underrated, that's also really easy to say from where we stand right now, gorging on a variety of incredible titles, in times where even other legendary survival horror series with messy histories are slowly making a comeback. Requiem is a follow-up and a response to the success, aiming to please both the newcomers from the remakes and veterans that have been playing since the beginning. Does it succeed? Well, let's start by talking about the method Capcom chose first. Requiem is a return to a concept that has already been done a few times before, distinct campaigns and mixing the action/horror of the series together. The most obvious example of this approach is Resident Evil 6, but while its different campaigns have variables in their tones and focuses, in the end all of them are still a very similar feeling over the top, intense fluid action. Not that I'm complaining, I genuinely adore this game, but this is a clip from Leon's campaign, the supposed survival horror of the bunch. Yeah. Revelation Student created more of an action horror hybrid, where you are constantly in combat while having to count every bullet and scour for resources, and Village is split into individual levels with drastically different styles of gameplay, survival horror, intense action, or Silent Hill. The approach in Requiem is relatively simplistic but ambitious, because it's not a game, it's two games. Resident Evil 9 is actually a mini Resident Evil 2 and mini Resident Evil 4 stitched together, both with their own protagonist and perspective, both with their own gameplay style and mechanics. Is this approach successful? The short answer is yes, definitely. The long answer is yes, but one of these is the standout for sure. Let's start from the most immediately striking aspect of this game, the vibe. One thing I really appreciate about Resident Evil is that even though it's a long-running series with a ton of main titles and a huge number of spin-offs, none of them can be really confused with each other. They all have their own identity, their own soul and take on the series' gameplay, all while using familiar tropes, characters and concepts. And if Requiem's style could be quickly summarized, it would be bleak and somber. Compared to the weird fucked up experimental melting pot duology of the last two titles, Requiem feels much more grounded. Its horror doesn't come from a spooky castle or a cult or a weird cannibal family. It comes from a gothic, heavy atmosphere, from constant attempts to put the player into incredibly tense situations. It doesn't pull back from putting you against overwhelming foes in disturbing locations early on. It's not afraid to throw you into complete darkness to disorient you, and often your only option at the start is to run. I would even argue this is by far the scariest the series has ever been. Resident Evil 7 also comes to mind, as it brought the horror back into the main focus and did so incredibly well. But it's also a game that's over the top and constantly in your face and sometimes a bit cartoonish. It's effective, don't take me wrong, but Requiem focuses much more on creating a heavy atmosphere, on making sure you're always on the edge and anxious. I'll get to how this exactly works gameplay wise, but one of the most immediate, direct ways of making this atmosphere stick is the new protagonist, Grace Ashcroft. Another thing I love about the series is its all-time cast of incredible main characters, where even the one-offs are memorable and distinct, and recurring characters are some of the most iconic, well-known characters in gaming history, instead of charming and interesting protagonists. But compared to someone like Jill, Claire or Rebecca, Grace is just a person, and a troubled one at that, a woman with a traumatic past and deep-running anxiety issues. It makes all of her actions and reactions to horrifying monsters and events she encounters much more real and relatable.
I'm Grace, Ashcroft, FBI.
FBI.
Your own feelings while playing these sections get portrayed through her, and it makes the already strong atmosphere even better. She has the typical Resident Evil character design trope of looking grounded and realistic, while also being really stylish and cool, and her voice acting is absolutely phenomenal as well.
I wanted to save her!
You don't understand.
No, I never would have escaped without her! This is all my fault! Again!
What's really impressive is that Capcom managed to balance on a tightrope with Grace. It's realistic and understandable to be freaked the fuck out when facing this, but it could get annoying very easily very quickly, yet it never does. The scares are timed and paced just enough to never get on your nerves, and Grace's overall personality and characterization helps a lot as well. Grace is scared and anxious, but she's not a coward. She's weak, but she's capable of defending herself. She's often overwhelmed, but she's smart and knows how to think on her feet. She's kind and caring and when necessary, puts herself in front of others. She's an incredible new addition to the already stellar cast of the series, and I really hope we get to see more of her. I think that's enough about the vibe of this game. Let's get to the really important part. How does it play? If it wasn't obvious yet, Grace is the survival horror girl in Requiem, and a lot of her gameplay is very familiar. Healing herbs, typewriters with limited saves, doors with symbols, keys with symbols, unlocking shortcuts, limited ammo, zombies returning as super zombies, jump scares, surprises, a central hub, the nice part of the map, the horrifying part of the map, slow, methodical combat, it's all here. The escape room flow exploring and discovering items to progress further, all while managing your resources and trying to survive the horrors. But Requiem isn't just a rehash of what the series has already done before, because by far the best aspect of it is how many relatively subtle but very effective innovations it squeezes in. Its crafting system has been expanded with the introduction of the infected blood, rewarding effective, strategic combat and exploration by giving you more ways to prepare yourself. It introduces enemies that completely alter the way you have to think and move around the level, and mainly, it gives a distinct, important personality to every zombie in the game, a reflection of the lives they lived before their untimely demise. Some are attracted to certain objects, some are easy to aggro, some roam around and some guard their area, making rounds and attacking anyone they find. That makes the initial exploration incredibly tense, because you can't just rely on the same old tricks you learned in the previous titles. Every enemy is dangerous in their own way, and it's the main gameplay reason why the survival horror of Requiem is so damn good. Actually, that's not true. The real reason is that those patterns change over time. The previously safe area suddenly becomes guarded. The one-way path you just used to get in suddenly isn't empty anymore. A zombie that's not supposed to be there scares the shit out of you while you're trying to solve a puzzle. That's the real genius of this game. It doesn't feel like you're just solving a puzzle box. It's reactive and makes you feel like you're playing against the game. There's apparently even an adaptive difficulty that adjusts the enemy damage and ammo drops based on how well you're doing, but I haven't really tested that in depth. So is Requiem the best survival horror of the series? It's very close, but no. It's incredible in its design and atmosphere, but one of my favorite things about the other survival horror entries of the franchise is the way its locations expand and eventually loop onto each other, creating a massive, intriguing place to explore. Grace has one proper survival horror section, a completely separated, shorter survival horror section, and two other brief sections that are pretty much just set pieces. And while both of these survival horror sections are well designed and have great moments, the second one is definitely a bit weaker and also doesn't really use the innovations I just found over that much. I do understand that my main criticism is pretty much as wishing there was more of the good thing, but I do feel it's fully warranted because of how good that section is, especially considering the series' unfortunate history with falling off in quality towards the end. So in summary, Grace's part is incredible, but it also just kind of stops at its peak. And as for the Leon sections, well... Before I say anything else, Leon is fun to play. It's still that responsive, satisfying action Capcom perfected at this point. It will always be fun to headshot someone, roundhouse kick them afterwards, maybe throw in a corny one-liner for good measure, that's just given. And just as Grace, Leon has some innovations to his gameplay as well. You can stylishly finish off injured enemies, you can throw weapons they drop, you have an infinitely durable headshot, you can... Oh. The main issue is that while Requiem's first half really pushes the series forward and does things it never did before, the second one just doesn't, and it's even a bit worse in certain aspects. I understand that might be the point, to call back to the history of the franchise, but compared to how much effort went into this part, it feels a bit unfortunate. And it's not only the lack of innovation, but also the structure and overall quality. On Leon segments in the first half of the game are very short and usually either a gimmicky boss fight or a gimmicky set piece. And while eventually going around the level you just spent several hours struggling to and just shooting everything to pieces is fun, it wasn't enough for me. And then the Raccoon City section happens, and while it never drops to being bad, it's repetitive and underwhelming in its design. Again, the core mechanics are fun to use, but they can only do so much when you spend several hours fighting the same few very similar zombie types, all in levels that feel really claustrophobic and uninspired, lacking any fun gimmicks or ideas to spice them up. There is a brief exception or two, but it's not enough, and overall this is sadly by far the weakest part of the game, and that's not even mentioning the fact exploration here is both very limited and almost never worth it. It's a bit sad that by far the best piece of Leon's design appears right at the start of the game with the chainsaw. It's just as deadly as it was before, but now it can also be dropped and pose a temporary danger on the ground. It can be picked up by you and used as a power weapon, but it can also be picked up again by another enemy. That enemy can then accidentally hit a different one, or it can get dragged into an unintentional pseudo dash. It was captivating to see and use, but nothing else sadly comes close to that level of quality, and the chainsaw itself appears only like one more time. The other issue with the Raccoon City section is the visuals. I haven't said anything about the presentation in general yet, but you have eyes. Requiem looks absolutely incredible. Super detailed, atmospheric, dark, varied in its locations, and it's just a joy to look at, with a set of haunting music for Grace and sinister pseudo-synth for Leon to back it all up. And then you arrive to Raccoon City. I understand that they were going for a desolate, depressing look, but looking at the dust and brown and shades of grey gets boring after around 5 minutes, and this section lasts hours. Thankfully, the second half of the Leon segment gets way better almost immediately. There is an incredibly fun, over-the-top set piece, and the lab is way more entertaining to play through. It looks great. I'm a sucker for these high clarity, high contrast, mirror's edge-like designs. It introduces enemy types the series haven't really done before, and also some fan favorites, with the average quality of the encounter design going up as well. Grace also returns here, and while her segments aren't amazing, I don't have much of an issue with them. She has a spooky, if a bit boring, highly scripted flashback, and a few shorter survivor horror sections that are leaning a bit more towards action, but that's fine, she already had her spotlight before. This part of the game also pulls off a really cheap, but a very effective trick. Oh wow, it's the thing, oh damn, it's the place, oh shit, it's the guy. The entire second half is full of callbacks and references, and while I would like to say I'm a distinguished, intellectual, grown-up big adult man and that I'm above this, I pop the fuck off every time something like this happened, and it definitely softened the blow of the first part. There's a few more small problems. All of the weapons feel very standard, all of the boss fights are okay at best, and I maybe wish the guard section was balanced a bit better. But that's nothing major anymore, at least for me. Okay, so Grace is fantastic, but I wish there was more of her, and Leon has a weak start but still ends up being enjoyable. It all looks amazing until it doesn't for a bit, and then it does again. And now, we only have one last aspect of the game to go through. Requiem has an excellent setup, with Grace investigating a series of murders she has a personal connection to, and Leon trying to find a cure for the delayed effects of the T-virus, trying to save both himself and his friends. Both characters end up in a care facility led by our new mad scientist playing God, Gideon. And believe it or not, shit goes very wrong very fast, with the release of a new type of virus that transforms everyone into the personality-filled zombies I mentioned before. It's a relatively simple, but very effective, and sets up a really interesting, intriguing mystery. But as far as the rest of the story goes, I'm not going to go into a detailed plot analysis, since that's not really my thing, so I'm just going to cut to the chase. This shit is dumb. Why are you putting someone you need for a plan in mortal danger over and over and over again? Why are you desperately trying to get something without knowing what it even is? Who the fuck are you? What the fuck was up with this? Why even have an alternative ending when it clearly doesn't matter? Why are we doing Yakuza level fake out deaths? Why was the US government nuking a city over a cure for the zombie outbreak they were dealing with at the moment? It's a lot, it's not very good in the end, and I'm not really disappointed. I don't love Disco Elysium for its combat mechanics, I don't love Yakuza for its plot twists, and I don't love Resident Evil for its deep, smart writing. I love it for its charm and characters and vibe, and a lot of it falls apart when you think about the events of these games for longer than you should. So I'm not going to. Because Requiem does the bare minimum and more. It has both incredible new characters and returns of fan favorites. It has some of the best voice acting in the series. It has some of the best cutscene direction in the series. Its mystery is well paced and intriguing, even if it falls a bit flat. I reached the ending looking forward to the next entry, curious about how the things and characters set up in this game will be developed more, and that's more than enough for me. So to summarize again, it looks almost always amazing. The first half is fantastic but a bit short, and the second one starts slow but eventually has enough fun stuff to be enjoyable. Its story is good in ways that matter, and it all creates a cohesive, captivating experience. No, really, I finished this game in one sitting, I didn't know I had that in me. One more minor piece of criticism I have is that I wish Requiem had more post-game content, but I don't think it's fair to judge that just yet. And at least it has the standard Resident Evil suite of concept art, character models, behind the scenes goodies, and new weapons to spice up a second playthrough. So to answer the question I said at the start, yes, this is another chapter in Capcom's incredible streak. It's not the definitive best in the series as the review scores would suggest, but it's a very strong experience, reassuring me that Resident Evil still has something to offer and my love for it isn't misplaced. And if all of the leaks and rumors are true, we're just in the middle of an incredible golden age. So that's it for my review of Resident Evil Requiem. This is my first solo game review since Jesus Christ, and a first longer game review since, oh my fucking god. And I honestly forgot how much fun is it to make these. As I promised before, I'm planning to finally be more active this year, and so far it's actually kind of working out. And as for what's next, I'd rather not say specifically, but there's some things I have never tried before, some that are more familiar, and maybe some that I want to try again. We'll see. Either way, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video or anything else I ever made, it means everything to me. And as always, my name is Spunky, take care and I'll see you soon.